All right, g'day and welcome. Okay, this week in World Crazy again. Yep, made this video the other day, but I got a little too ranty. Yeah, I know, me, ranty. Okay, so anywho, what kind of craziness do we got going on about midweek here? Well, we're a Wednesday. Everything's fine down here, but out there, everybody's nuts. That's pretty much, and the end. Everybody's nuts at the end. I don't know. It's been a wow. Like, guys, when I made my January 2026 predictions for the year, and I said that you're gonna get like 10 years of chaos in like the first 2 months. Hang on to your hats, boy. Was I? Did I ever nail that one? Um, I know it's perspective, but when you really realize what's going on in the world, like you should be terrified. Like don't live in fear, but like just be aware of what's really going on. And it's just, oh my god, it just gets worse and worse and worse. The more you peel back the layers, the worse it gets. But it's all done on purpose. That's the whole thing, and that's why I always tell people like don't like I know like it's easy to be demoralized because it's like you're always being attacked. Like if you're on the right, you're always being attacked by everything. You know what I mean? The radical left attacks you, whatever. Government just won't fucking let up on stupidity and just attack on all of its citizens, whether the left or right. So I can get how people get demoralized. But and I know what I'm about to say is um, kind of sounds like a black pill, but it's not. It's just so people realize where we're at. We've already lost the fight. We've already lost the war. That's why we're in the situation we're in. We've already lost it, right? So what we have to do is regain control with rule of law and stuff like that. Now we're not going to vote our way out of the problem. Now I think that should be clear to most people by now. Now it's like okay, it takes the voting for lesser of two evils to a whole new level, right? Up here in Canada, there's rumors of a spring election. I don't think it's going to happen. I'll tell you why. Like, to get for Carney to get a majority, like he's more likely to lose seats than he is to gain seats, right? So, whereas if all you have to, to do to pass a bill, okay, is just convince two other people in whatever other party, that's a hell of a lot easier than going to an election. I'm not saying they wouldn't try it because people are retarded, like they do stuff like that. It's like you're like 99, you got 99% of control that you need, and you might even have a workaround with two other people voting in your favor, which is almost a guarantee. Oh yeah, let's gamble all that. You know what I mean? And end up losing like 15 or 20 seats. You know what I mean? And then you have a real minority government. When you're that close, you just don't play around with it. You just leave it. I really don't think Carney's going to go that route, but I think he's keeping it as an option because the thing is the conservatives they don't want an election right now because they know they can't win. Uh, and again, I'm a conservative. Like I voted for Pierre, and like even I know, like it was close. Pierre reached a historic milestone in this country. It's the most votes a conservative ever had, and not only that, the most youth votes a conservative ever had. Like when the kids are voting conservative, kids, well, young adults are voting conservative. Your society's really really polarized. You know what I mean? Because that never happens. Kids are usually always kids, young adults are voting age adults are usually always left wing, right? Because they're propagandized by the schools, they're propagandized by the media to be left wing. It's only once life starts kicking them in the ass that they get a dose of conservatism because they realize that all this we think and we believe and wishy-washy stuff and extreme taxation doesn't help. You know what I mean? It hurts. It helps people that it shouldn't be helping. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to be giving all this welfare to all these illegals and stuff like that. What I mean? Oh, nobody's illegal. Yeah, we can't fucking afford them. People that say that are pretty brain dead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this does not happen in non-Western countries, right? And you got to ask the reason why. Is it because all those other countries are racist and bigot? No, it's because they look after their own citizenry's interest. Even if some of these countries are, not that they might be hellos, but they're not stupid, right? So what I'm getting at is that we still have that battle, of challenging the political correctness and the PC crowd and the progressives and everything like that, because Donald Trump has really set us back on that front. Like like people now support immigration out of just because just to be opposition. It's like, well, if Trump is against immigration, then I'm for it. I mean, like there's people, like, unfortunately there's that kind of, that's the majority of people are simple minded like that. If the other guy's against it, uh, then I got to be for it, or if the other guy's for it, I have to be against it. It's divergent, right? It just is what it is. So we have to deal with all that, and Trump is not making it easy for us. Like maybe what he's doing is what Nigel Farage did. Is basically okay. Nigel Farage basically just torpedoed the Tory party, right? Destroyed the Tory party, and then you had this radical vote to the left, right? And maybe Trump was doing that to kill all conservative movements around the world. That's what it seems like he's done, because right now, like, conservative is just a bad word no matter if you talk to the Normans. Like, I used to vote conservative. No, I don't, because that Pierre guy, he's like Hitler. And it's just completely fucking out of touch, right? And the irony is that Pierre Poilievre and I know a lot of conservatives are going to get offended by this, but it really didn't matter if you got Carney or Poilievre. They kind of have the same platform. Mark Carney stole about at least half of Pierre Poilievre's platform. So all the people that are trashing Mark Carney, it's like, you do realize this is exactly pretty much what you would have gotten with Pierre anyway. So I voted for Pierre, but we got Carney, but I still kind of get a half win. Now that said, like the things like the gun grab, and of course now there's another freaking RCMP data leak with our gun on gun owners, like 2.2 million gun owners that now have their information leaked out there to the never ends, right? And of course nobody's ever accountable, of course. So that means your Antifa guys can know where your guns are. You know what I mean? The terrorists can know where your guns are. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so infuriating. I get that. But you just got to kind of hold strong through it, because if not, you're going to go nuts. You're going to go nuts. You're going to stress out. You're going to go nuts. What was the guy? Lauren Green, Laurel Green. There was two of them, right? Like him, he was on like stress leave all the time. He was one of those talk show conservatives, and he was just angry all the time. Like the guy was just angry all the time, right? And again, I get it. When your job is there to bitch about stuff, and just be disgruntled all the time. I get that, but it's like you can't live like that. Like if not, you'll end up as retardedly nuts as the left, right? I mean, these people can't even function. You know what I mean? And you don't want to be like that. So you have to pick your battles. You have to understand you're in it for the long fight. Yes, we're going under about 80 to 100 years. Well, between 80 and 3,000 years of communism, depending on who wins, right? I think it's going to be in pockets anyway. So just don't live in the cities. Like transhumanism is coming. Don't live in the cities. This is what these big look. The United States has just put all their eggs in one basket. On these AI data centers, right? This is going to be what's going to fix the economy, and it's just losses, like massive losses. The GDP is growing on these data centers just because of the construction. Once they're built, there's no way to recoup that. So it's not about just giving you better internet pictures. It's not about that stuff. There's something big. It's going to be weaponized. It's what the Internet of Things, I think, is meant to be. Is like, okay, well, we need the AI to the AI is the data center. You know what I mean? Like the data center. Like you're not going to have all these guys from India in there. It's just going to be the AI algorithms running itself to police the world, to police to police you from cradle to grave. Which they've already got like 90% of people in the bag, right? You have to understand, people talking these progressive buzzwords. Once you hear that, or normie buzzwords, and it's just like I have always said, beware the buzzword. That 90% of people are just going to go along with whatever is there, which is a fine and a vice, because that means if we get the upper hand, they'll go along with us. Right? So it just like look at both sides of it. So we got to keep fighting the good fight. But yeah, the big crackdown is coming probably sometime in the like, especially the anti-Semitism stuff and all that. Like they're gonna really hammer it, but it's gonna be a little too late. And it's not going to work anyway. Why? Because these data centers, like the AI is not symbiont. I know there's a lot of people, oh, it's scary, it's terrifying. It can only do what it's programmed to do. That's it. It's not even close to symbiont. Is it clever? Can it calculate fast? Yeah. Can be convincing? Yeah. But it's not symbiont. It can't create. The AI cannot create. It can generate. It can't create. And once you understand that, then you understand like the fight is not as uphill as you think. It's just how disruptive is it going to be using like a Minority Report kind of, oh, this guy has right wing thoughts, therefore we have to put him in jail, that kind of stuff. That's where the disruption is. It's the authoritarian use of it. Like the Palantir and stuff like that. Like, did our gun owner data go to Palantir? Like, they're not even fucking from Canada. You know what I mean? But like that's the thing with globalism, right? So I understand why people are so angry and so demoralized and stuff like that. It makes sense. You probably wouldn't be human if you weren't, right? But don't let it blind you. Don't let it blind you into the partisanship stuff, because the partisanship is where people get duped the most. Like the people that still believe Trump's the good guy, stuff like that. The Q and the Patriot stuff. The radical left on just about anything. Like the LGBTQ, like they think this stuff is good for them. You know what I mean? It's not. Like, again, when you can kind of zoom out a bit, you can see how harmful it is, right? Just like the right has its problems, but at least it can function. The left, they're these people are just like, just thank you. Like, these people are mentally ill. Like, you just thank yourself when you wake up in the morning that you're not a left wing person. And I do separate left wing and right wing political from right hand path, left wing, and left hand path. So you can be a left wing liberal person and still right hand path, and vice versa. You can be a right wing person and still left hand path. Zionist neocons on the right, yeah, these are death cults, right? These people are left hand path. They destroy everything. Your average progressive liberal, yeah, they're left hand path. They're death cults, right? That's what they are. The MAGA are a little bit weird because they're not necessarily nihilistic. They're just really, really gullible. You know what I mean? Like, they truly believe that Trump is doing the right thing. Like, because it's just, well, my president, I support my president. You know what I mean? Like, it's lowbrow thinking. Like, these people do not have critical thinking skills. If they did, the ones that do, like, look, I'm listening to a lot of former MAGA people that are just like, they're in chaos, because it's just like, we've been betrayed. All of, like, they're used to fighting the left, right? They're not used to fighting their own side. But thus is the chaos of a civil war, right? It just, most of it's online, thank God. But there's people in the streets. There's people in the streets, and there's going to be more people in the streets. And of course, it's the ant jar theory, where you got to put the black ants and the red ants in the same jar, and you shake it up, and they fight. Meanwhile, they should be mad at the person that shook the jar. But this is the whole thing. Like, there's people that can see that, and there's enough of us that can, that we don't get caught up into who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Like, this whole Minneapolis thing, like, it's completely a waste of time to really follow it, because it doesn't, like, people think, like, you got these conservatives that are blinded by this authoritarian government, the Second Amendment, and they're going on and on and on about that. It's like, yeah, sure, okay, granted, I support the Second Amendment. Wish we had it up here, but there's also common sense. You know what I mean? And even at that, like, the argument is this: okay, whether they use excessive force or not, you can debate that. Let the courts sort that out. But what you're not getting is the scenario. Why does this scenario exist in the first place? Why do you have a radical leftist out there protesting in front of guys who he's challenged a week before with a physical altercation, to the point he had a rib or something broke, to the point where these ICE agents, okay, when people say, oh, they're not well trained. They are fucking extremely well trained. Proof is in the pudding. The guy gets smoked by a car and still has the skills to put 3 rounds through a windshield or whatever it was to shoot the lady. That's skill. That's skill. Like, no, that's not the issue. They have plenty of skill. They're trained well enough. These guys are on edge because people keep trying to kill them. You know what I mean? So when your protester who has it's my human right to be able to have self defense and have my Second Amendment. Yeah, okay. If you're gonna go face to face with guys who are much better trained than you, and you're gonna challenge these guys physically, and then you get into the altercation. Okay, maybe they use excessive force. You can argue that, sure, but just the brain saying, should I be wearing my sidearm in plain visibility in front of a bunch of highly strung guys that I believe are Nazis that are going to genocide everybody, but I'm going to walk right up to them with my sidearm on and challenge them and physically push them and attack their vehicle and whatever. The smart shopper says, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. Why? Because these guys might shoot me. Why? Because self-preservation. I'm not going to be that stupid. Oh, but Kyle Rittenhouse, well, yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse shot an Antifa, right? But even at that, like this whole bringing guns to protests is kind of a dumb idea. I know people do it; they have the right to do it, sure, but don't bitch about the consequences of that. You know what I mean? Like if you bring your AR-15 and somebody starts challenging you, and okay, maybe you defend yourself, sure, but you're gonna have a hard time making a self-defense claim if you smoke the guy in front of you and kill 3 people behind him, right? Those people didn't do anything to you, So should you just bring it, well, yeah, but I got to defend myself against the Antifa. Well, here we go again. Why would you show up where the Antifa are? Look, the Second Sons up here in Canada, these guys are basically the Second Sons comes from the line in All Thy Sons Command out of the Canadian National Anthem. That was changed to All of Us Command, for progressivism, right? We need to change it back, right? Because it's just ruining our heritage all the time, watering it down, right? That it's not done for inclusion and all that; it's done to water down. So these guys, when they protest, they do a banner drop. Now, banner drops, of course, are only illegal if it's the right wing doing it. If the left wing does it, that's fine, right? The double standards there. So they do these banner drops. Nobody gets hurt. A lot of people see it, and they move on. You know what I mean? They don't go and say, "Hey, we're going to have 10,000 people meeting at this place or that place." Those type of protests always get subverted, and they always turn violent on purpose because, like Saint Yuri Bezmenov would always say, there can never be any legitimate protest. So if you want to protest, I always say, it's your right to protest. I've never said that it's not. But what I'm also saying is be smart about it. You know what I mean? This Alec Pretty and Renee Good, so pretty good. Everybody's making that thing. Yeah, these people like they're not saints. These people they're very fucking violent people. Everybody's she was a mother. A mother doesn't make her a good person. She's in fact, if you judge her by the stats, she's kind of a bad mother. She had some of her children taken away because the lesbian lover was fucking burning them with the cigarette butts and shit. This is the type of person that like the left goes to bat for all the time. Your George Floyd, the crackhead that beats up pregnant women. I mean, it's this Alex Pretty guy. But the thing about the Alex Pretty guy is but he was a nurse. He was that the TikTok videos of nurses and doctors out there saying, like, basically describing how to kill ICE agents in the ICU. Like, these people not only need to lose their jobs, but they're literally uttering death threats. And where's the state to say, well, no, you can't do that. You're advocating for murder of specific group of people, right? Where's the rule of law? These people should be hauled away and locked up. But the thing is this is what we're up against. Like, I've never feared going to the doctor. What I fear is going to the doctor and have an anti-male SJW there, and they're like, "Oh, this guy, I think he's a right winger. Yeah, maybe I'll give him a little bit too much of something and it kills him." You know what I mean? Like, how much of that is going on right now? You know what I mean? Because of this fucking psychosis that, you know, all these people are in. You know what I mean? They're complete. It's mind numbing, right? So that's all going on. But the point I'm making is, why does this scenario exist in the first place? Simple. Because there's been no rule of law for decades. Letting people come into the country that forces a movement to want to, you know, get them out, and then you get, you know, somebody like Trump who, again, Obama did way more deportations than Trump. Um, you know, more ICE agents killed more people in custody under Obama than on Trump, but it's different when Trump does it, right? Because it's ideological, it's religious, it's not about consistency with the left. It never is, never was, never will be. Why? Because these people are nuts, right? But it's the thing is that scenario itself would not exist it had the borders never been opened in the first place, right? So you know, you got to think of the butterfly effect here. You know, if there was no illegals, there'd be no ICE. You know what I mean? Or very little. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, that's my take on that for now. And yes, it's going to get worse. Yes, you're going to see it again. Whatever. The gun confiscation thing up here in Canada, yeah, very infuriating. Everything like that. It there's nobody seems to be on board with this other than, you know, the radicals in the Liberal Party, and of course the George Soros funded like Coalition for Gun Control, whatever they call themselves now these days. They're like Action on Violent Firearms. Or they change up every now and then. And no, it's not the entirety of Quebec that wants the gun ban. It's a handful of UN backed, George Soros backed thing. It's the same thing with the separatist thing in Alberta. Yes, there are people that legitimately want to separate, but you have to understand the donors that donate to Danielle Smith. A lot of them. This is why she won't call them out. I talked about it, I think, in the last one. Is that a lot of those donors have separatist leanings, right? But a lot of those guys are also dual citizenship Canadian Americans, right? Um, and there's a lot of U.S. State Department funding in this movement. And once you realize that, you'll realize, you know, like it's not a legit movement in the sense that it actually has a lot of steam. But it doesn't mean it can't turn. You know, they can't. You can always sway people to go against their interest at some point. And again, if you look at the cost, what it would first off, it would take, you know, like, it's not as simple as we voted to leave and that's it. Like, there's like, again, the native treaties and stuff like that. You can't just get rid of land that's not yours, right? Um, and the idea that to separate just to join the United States to take on, like, you're going to take on their debt plus have to pay your your share of the debt on the way out, plus all the stuff you lose. I mean, it's just like, yeah, pensions and all that shit, healthcare, all that stuff. You lose all that overnight, right? And it's the same thing up here in Quebec. There's a, you know, Parti Québécois, Bloc Québécois. We want to have a referendum in 2030. They're still brainwashing the French kids the same way. Oh, it's the same argument I heard back in 1995, and the same argument back in, you know, when Charles de Gaulle said "Vive le Québec libre," all that stuff. It's the separatism thing doesn't fly in Quebec. You know, like, at least it's based upon heritage and culture, not just resources and shit like that, like it is in Alberta mainly. Alberta's main thing is the transfer payments and pipelines, right? You don't break up a country for that because you're still not going to get rid of the problem. In fact, you're going to increase the problem. Why? Because if Alberta were to separate, okay, you know, how are you going to get the oil out of there? The only way out is south because BC isn't going to let you use their territory. Saskatchewan, well, they might, you know, so yeah, but they're all going to leave together. Again, that's propaganda, you know. Look, leaving the country is not necessary, even if you've got, so, like, again, I understand the claims that Alberta is making. I've got all kinds of, you know, like, there's not one province I can't bitch about. You know what I mean? Sure, whatever. But at the end of the day, yeah, you know, even most people in Quebec understand that no, this whole separatism thing. We realized it after 95. Yes, they've been able to keep about a 18 to 20% um, support rate. But as soon as those French kids get out of school and they start going, oh, I got to go find a job. Oh, there's where am I going to go? Oh, I got to go to Ottawa or Gatineau or whatever. Oh, it's like okay, I have to be bilingual. Oh, okay, well, maybe this sovereignty thing isn't quite so because they brainwash everybody, right? And it's a complete evil. It's complete evil. But no, most you get most French people to get outside the Quebec City or someplace like that. They kind of see the forest for the trees a lot easier. They still might be okay. Well, I want French first, but no, I got to learn English because like okay, I can go to African countries and find people that speak French, maybe the French Polynesian Islands and France, but after that, everybody else speaks English no matter where you are in the world. If you go to China, they're either speaking English or Mandarin. You know what I mean? Maybe a couple other countries. They're not going to focus on French. They're not going to focus on. You go anywhere else, it's English, right? I've had convert separatists tell me this many times for years. Like it's like, yeah, I used to be a separatist, and then it's like, yeah, I kind of grew out of it. Because it's one that, and that's how you learn what the arguments, how bullshit they are, right? And it's the same thing with the Alberta one. Like there's the guy that's spearheading it, like I wouldn't trust that fucker as far as you could throw him. Like the first thing you have to understand, as soon as you separate, you're separating with basically American companies running half your industries, right? That's one of the problems we have right now, right? So you don't solve that problem. The only thing that happens is you now take on U.S. debt, you lose all your benefits, you lose all your union stuff, all that stuff is gone. Maybe they'll appease a few, but whatever. But basically, all the guys working in the oil patch for the high-paying jobs, yeah, that's where the temporary foreign workers are going to go. They're already doing it now. You know what I mean? If you look at the United States, look, I love the American people, but the American government does not take care of its people. They won't even give them fucking health care. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, you got to pay. 40% of Americans can't afford health care. It's probably higher than that now. They just can't afford it. Oh well, single payer healthcare system. Oh, well, that's socialism. Yeah, you got all these people that are just suffering and dying. Because it's like, okay, well, if you're going to pay taxes for something, I think that's pretty good. You know what I mean? And it goes on and on and on. But the thing is that no, I think most Albertans are pretty smart. They can figure it out that it's like, okay, yes, there's a disgruntled thing with 10 years of Justin Trudeau. I get that. You're preaching to the choir. But Carney is not Trudeau. So when I see right wingers out there saying, oh, Carney's worse than Trudeau, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Not even close. Nobody's worse than Trudeau. Can we get worse than Trudeau? Believe it or not, we probably could. But no, Carney's not even close. In fact, if Trump was doing what Carney was doing, people would be praising him. Pierre Poilievre is pretty much like again, it's he was advocating to do the same things. There's a few things different. Okay, like Pierre, milking the pipeline thing, but even at that whole pipeline, they're standing in the way of the pipelines. They won't let us build pipelines, and it's like okay, that's not quite accurate though, because there is okay. BC is your issue, not Ottawa when it comes to the tanker thing. It's BC that has the policy saying that we're going to cap the amount of tanker oils. Remember they had to clean up the Exxon Valdez thing, right? So I can understand it. So you're blaming Ottawa for BC's regulations, right? That said, even with that, they're still increasing some of the pipeline stuff. So it's like okay, whenever they increase the pipeline stuff, where's the Conservatives talking about that? It's like okay, no, that's exactly what you wanted. Oh, we can't. Why? Because we have to be partisan for the sake of being partisan. I understand both sides do it. That's why I hate partisans, because they both lie by omission. It's like right now you have the Liberals saying, "Oh, the Conservatives won't work on us with this and that. That's why we need a majority government." Blah blah blah. Meanwhile, the Conservatives are like, about bail reform. They're like, "Yeah, we're for it." There's a couple other things where the Conservatives are working with the Liberals, but the media is like, oh, well, they're doing this, and it's like it's all bullshit. And they shouldn't be allowed, political parties should not be allowed to bullshit like that. Number one, it's divisive to the population. Number two, it's not what's actually happening, so you're lying. And number three, it's like it's making people focus on the wrong things. You know what I mean? When we can be focusing on stuff more solution based, right? The pipeline thing. Well, most of that is not Ottawa blocking the pipelines. A lot of that is more the pipeline builders saying, look, to build this pipeline, it's not cost effective. We're not going to make money off it. Therefore, either the government bankrolls the pipeline or you bankroll the pipeline or whatever, because we're not going to do it because we're not going to make enough money on it. And that's a lot like the East-West pipeline. That's one of the issues is the pipeline builders don't want to take it. It's kind of like Trump and Venezuela, and like none of the oil companies want to fucking even touch that, right? It's like, yeah, it's conflict oil. We don't want to touch it, and so you gotta factor that in. You know what I mean? So there's things, and again, if it was just, like there's other things too that okay, well, what can we do together? What are we doing together? The wins we've been getting, again, not that I'm not being overly optimistic, and I'm not naive on the trouble we're in. Look, the U.S. economy is not technically in recession per se, but once you understand how it's propped up, they're in worse than a recession. Like these data centers are only going to be able to prop up for so much longer, and that's it, right? Basically, they're living off of stimulus, money printing. That's what they're living off of, right? That's every country. Now, Canada is a little bit different because the capital, like the job losses here, are not due to loss of capital. Like capital flight. In the States, a lot, like they just lost another 75,000 jobs. Forget what sector. But it's due to people pulling their investments, loss of capital. That is huge. That is huge. And again, like in Canada, we take a hit one spot where Trump attacks us because he's trying to destroy our economy, right? So I mean, it's an act of war, but it's what he's doing. What he just did to the Cubans is absolutely that just infuriated the shit out of me. He basically destroyed Cuba's economy. Look, Venezuela and Cuba, you might not like them. I'm not a fan of Raul Castro, nor was I. It's like I'm not. I don't like those regimes. Wasn't it? But they were doing trade with each other, and Trump says, no, you can't do that because you're in our hemispheric influence. You're not allowed to do trade with each other. So right now, airline companies are trying to get all the tourists out that they can because it's like they're running out of fuel, and like sure the airliners can make it to Cuba from Florida or whatever, with enough fuel to do a round trip. Problem is you can't land the airplanes with that much fuel. So like they don't have the infrastructure to land the airplanes at full weight because not enough runway. So they have to dump fuel, right? Which means they can't refuel while they're there because there's a fuel shortage. There's now starvation crisis going on in Cuba, thanks to Donald Trump cutting off the oil from Venezuela, right? And basically, just like it's the same neocon play every time. If we make the people suffer, they'll rise up against their government. I don't think that's what's going to happen, right? The idea is to make Cuba desperate so that they do something that the U.S. they can get pretext to go and bomb the shit out of them and kill more people. That's all it's about. It's not even about against Russia or China as much there, other than just pure fucking evil cruelty. Trump is a fucking demon at this point. Like Cuba wasn't fucking with you. Oh, but they were doing trade with Russia and China, and they're an independent country. So like this whole, again, all these libertarians that suddenly they don't, they believe in manifest destiny bullshit rather than actual libertarianism. Oh no, we need to take out the dictators in Venezuela. We need to take out the dictators in Cuba. How about no? They don't have a right to exist as a nation. It's up to the Cuban people if they want that. You know what I mean? If the Cuban people want to overthrow the government, that's up to them. You know what I mean? Not up to us. So all these fucking hypocrite so-called right-wingers, so-called libertarians, suddenly are all for confiscation of oil and confiscation of freighters and blocking sovereign countries from doing trade because it's in our national interest. Yeah, exactly what fucking national interest? Go fuck yourselves. It's not national security. It's not national. That's the bullshit they tell you all the time. It's never about democracy and women and children and stuff like that. Don't ever believe that. They got the U.S. pirate navy blockading countries that are independent countries that have done nothing to them. And again, it's there. It does not hurt. Like Cuba doing oil trade with and resources trading with Venezuela does not hurt the United States in any way at all. Period. There's no way you can spin it. Just neocon death cult stuff. That's it. Oh, we have to take them out because they might do something. You know what I mean? Yeah, we know. So yeah, what they've done in Cuba is just absolutely horrible. People are starving. I mean, the Cubans have already been beat down enough as it is. Like, leave them the fuck alone. Holy shit! Like, they don't deserve that at all. Just because Trump said so. And there's still people fucking following this guy. Like, why? Like there's nothing he's doing that's conservative. No, he's not fighting the deep state. There is no deep state. It's all openly admitted shit. You know what I mean? But anyway, I digress. That's what's going on there. So keep an eye on that. So that's horrible. Pray for the Cubans. Pray for the Cubans. Again, no fan of Raul Castro, nor was I of Fidel. But again, it's their country. Let them deal with it the way they want. Like I say, the United States is about to go to war with about 40 to 45 countries because of this kind of manifest destiny bullshit. It always gets them in trouble, right? Now, the Gordie Howe Bridge, okay, yeah. this one, okay. This man he's worse than a teenage fucking girl. Like, he cannot not post about and react to every little fucking thing, right? And it's like, oh, he's just saying it to agitate. Yeah, but why? Why? Like, what's the point of it? So he's going after the Gordie Howe Bridge, right? Which is, oh, Canada's, fucking us over again. Back when it was built, he was giving it praise. He was like, yeah, no, can't wait till the thing opens. It's going to increase trade between Canada and the United States, right? You got the Ambassador Bridge, and then you'll have the Gordie Howe Bridge, and then you'll have the Thousand Island Bridge, right? It was praised, but now somehow Canada fucking us over, even though we paid for like more than half, like something like $4 to $6 billion of that bridge we paid for. Is pretty much we own both sides of the water there, and then it turns into then it goes into the state, right? Michigan State. So again, more stupidity from Trump. The Super Bowl. Yes, I watched that thing. The Bad Bunny. I had no idea who Bad Bunny was, whatever. But anyway, I watched a bit of it and just kind of skimmed through it to see, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay, yeah, Trump's right. Yeah, nobody can understand what the guy's saying because not everybody's like Puerto Rican or whatever he was singing in. Mind you, the guy that sang at the almost at the end there, he was actually pretty good. I was like, that guy's fucking good. The guy was playing that 10-string guitar there. Yeah, like that was good. That part of it was good. I have no idea what they were singing about, but I was like, hey, that's not good. The rest of them kind of, I don't know if that was Lady Gaga or whoever the female singer was. It was like she sang in English, but it was whatever. Okay, so was it a jab at Trump with the ICE deportations of the farmers or something? Probably. Who cares? And then you had some Olympian. Okay, we got the Olympics now. Pray for a speedy recovery of our Canadian athlete there. She went down really hard on the slopes there, so hopefully they had to airlift her out of there. So yeah, hopefully she didn't end her career. When you watch skiing wipeouts, yeah, you watch them after, like, as long as the person didn't die, you're like, you watch it, they made a full recovery, okay. But it's like you hope that doesn't happen to somebody. Like that's pretty nasty, these falls, right? But getting back to Trump. So there was an American athlete, forget what sport he was partaking in. he said something, and okay, maybe as an underlying tone, you could say it was a little bit of a jab or whatever. But even at that, there was nothing that he said, whatever. And then Trump just goes on a tirade. Like number one, like holy fuck, hold your tongue. Like you don't attack your Olympians. You know what I mean? Like you don't attack your Olympians. Like that's why I hate hyperpartisans. And Trump is a hyperpartisan. It's just the problem is he's a hyperpartisan for Israel. That's it. Like that's all Trump cares about is Israel and the stock market, right? And those aren't doing so well right now. But the thing is that like you don't attack your Olympians. I mean, even if you don't agree with them, like you don't have to fucking respond to every little fucking thing. Like this fucking Cheeto man is such a fucking faggot cocksucker. Like fucking grow a pair or something. It's like what you do is just say, well, I wish all my Olympic athletes to represent the best country ever. Blah blah blah. Blow some shit like that out there. Go Team America, go whatever. Us Team Canada, whatever. Yeah, that's what the Olympics are for, right? I get it. People get on their soapboxes because we're in hyperpartisanship and everything like that, and polarization, and it's everywhere. I get that, but like you're not helping by responding to every little thing. If the people want to respond, that's fine, okay. But be presidential. Like he's so unpresidential. And it's like, oh, it's just he's unorthodox. No, he's disgraced the United States beyond. Like when you're attacking your Olympians, your own Olympians. Look, if the Olympians are politically incorrect or woke or whatever, they step out of line. It was like that. Remember that? I guess she was the captain of the Team USA hockey team or whatever. Yeah, that girl. Okay, yeah. People just chewed her apart on the fucking social media because she was so cringe, right? Sure, yeah, she'll get what she deserves, but you got from the president's point of view, you've got to be the bigger person. You know what I mean? You're representing 300 and some odd million people. You got to put the good foot forward. You know what I mean? Like it's just like Carney. Okay, as much as a weasel as Carney is, one thing he's good at is he knows how to play Trump very well. Like it's one of those things where he lets Trump just let his ego walk into it. That's what he did at the World Economic Forum, and it worked to like the anti-Trump thing is working to Carney's advantage, like you wouldn't believe. Like it's just like, yeah, fuck, I'm getting all these trade deals. I'm getting, like if Trump was doing the stuff Carney was doing, people would be praising Trump left, right, and center, even the left. You know what I mean? Look, the left in Canada, they're mad at Carney, because he's too much of a right winger, but he's like doing okay. Like he's not doing well. Actually, he's doing better than okay. It's just he's up against a colossal fuck up from 10 years of Trudeau, right? So again, the Canadian economy is still bouncing along. We're not in recession, but we're bouncing up and down like that. Up, the economy's up, the economy's down. And we're trying to outrun, the gamble is we're trying to outrun the collapse of the United States, which is taking place. It's not happening in Canada. It's taking, like, Canada, yes, there's a lot of people on the right that are like, oh, everything's just lost and everything's, it's like, no, we've got problems. We got lots of problems. And we got like everything problems. Sure, granted, but we also, if you were to say, would I rather be in Canada's boots or in the Americans' boots? I'd much rather be in Canadian boots. I'm telling you, it's not being partisan. I'm just saying the numbers just say, like, here's the problems the United States has that we don't. $38 trillion deficit to start with. Spending $1 trillion every 3 months on keeping the government running. Like, we don't have rolling government shutdowns going on. Yes, we had under Trudeau, but Trudeau prolonged government not because it couldn't function, but we couldn't afford to keep it open, but because we've done something else. He didn't want to get ousted by his own party. That's why. So it was Trudeau's ego that shut down our government. Not, that's why he's like one of the worst prime ministers. Not one of. He is, by all metrics and standards, the worst prime minister we've ever had. It's factual. You just can't look at it any other way. Carney is becoming one of the better ones, and it's not because I like the guy. I do not like this man, but I have to be fair. And I'm like, okay, well, we're getting all these new trade deals. We got 12 trade deals signed and delivered in like under a year, which is impressive no matter who did it. Like Harper, uh, where Carney and Harper differ, okay, and Stephen Harper being the best prime minister Canada's had, if you judge him by every metric overall, Stephen Harper is the guy to beat, right? Whether you like them, they're like, yes, they're all globalists. I know that. Like, and people think I don't know this, but I know this. I'm saying this is this is the hand we're dealt. This is what we got to play. It doesn't mean I like it. I'm saying this is just where the bar is set. So Stephen Harper, I've talked about his stats, the big, like the highlights. Where Carney has kind of dropped the ball is on the deficit, right? So it's like a 78 trillion, $78 billion deficit or whatever. Some say it's a little higher, a little less. And about half of our budget is basically about $200 billion is going to paying our interest on the debt, which is a good thing. It's a lot of money, I get it, but we're paying it down, right? And Carney's deficits are only going to go from, say, in 4 years at best, from 78 billion down to like say 50 some odd billion, right? That is a significant drop. But Harper, he basically took us from a $76 billion deficit down to a $5 billion deficit in 10 years, and he managed to balance the budget. Had Harper had another, say, 4 years or 8 years, right now Canada would have probably half of its debt paid off. We'd be the strongest country, and we'd be a superpower by now. Carney is I'm just being realistic. I'd like to see the budget balanced in 4 years, but you know how tricky that would be to do, because you see what Stephen Harper did was he did stimulus, obviously, because that's how you kept things going. And he did increase the government because the war in Afghanistan and stuff like that. Right? So he actually made the government much bigger. He ballooned the government, even bigger than what Chrétien did. And Paul Martin. Paul Martin paid off more debt than Harper. Harper was just on the, he was just starting to pay down the debt, right? And but then he didn't win again, and then Trudeau ran it to fucking Mars, right? Again, 240 years of spending in like 10 years. That's what Trudeau did. So yeah, we're in trouble. We've got a lot of things to fix. Now, the guy that's been tasked with this is Carney. So Carney, he's not going to be able to balance the budget realistically in 4 years. But if he could take the deficit down every year, he might be able to do it in 10. And if he doesn't, let's say he's out in the 4 years, okay, and we get Poilievre, and Poilievre sticks on the track of, okay, well, we're going to balance the budget, stuff like that. But you have to understand, what does a balanced budget cost? Well, it's pay me now, pay me later. You can have this, or you can have any social program you want, but you have to have a way to pay for it. So either everybody takes a pay cut or services cut, or you cut this off in favor of that. That's kind of the way it works, right? Or you balloon your deficit. You print more money and whatever. So Carney is slowly on the right track if he can maintain. What I'm thinking Carney, well, we're going to find out whether he did or not, is how much over he's going to go. Let's say he's forecasted $78 billion over, and then he goes like $200 billion over. You know what I mean? Instead of 78 in the first year. Okay, well then, new boss sings the old boss. He's just as bad as Trudeau. But let's say he comes in $72 billion. Okay, it's a slight savings. Okay, it's not great, but it's better than what it was, and we're still making our payments on the debt. We're not at the point where we can't service the debt. The United States is almost at the point where it can't service the debt. That's a big one. That's a huge one. So to meet Harper's level, he's going to have to cut things. So, like, for example, right now the Canadian population is actually shrinking. We're down by like 76, 78 million, 78,000 people, which is not enough. But that would be, almost a million people. It'd be 700,000 people a decade if we were shrinking, right? We're slightly over 40 million. That's still too much, right? We need to shrink by at least 300,000 people minimum per year. That would be the minimum. Realistically, if we could get rid of a million people per year within the decade, we could be back to a sustainable population size. But the thing is that if we still have foreign workers coming in, that's true, but there's a lot of what's hard to gather is who's coming and who's going, because you have visas that expire and then they leave, right? You can track that. But you have visas that expire and they don't leave and we don't know where they are, right? And you can't track that. So again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying Carney's going to fix the immigration problem, but if it's moving in the right direction, just out of basic math and numbers, okay, well, we got to get rid of some of these refugees that are costing us way too much. Somebody was telling me that Canada has about 18 million people on some form of social assistance. That's not sustainable, but that's like from retirees right down to like, like a healthcare plan to something, right? Whatever it would be. But, again, it's the welfare recipients. If we could start to phase them out, saying, look, okay, start with workfare. You want to see immigrants leave, do workfare. The lazy ones leave. The good ones that are working, okay, we can keep them. But the temporary foreign workers that are doing the low-end jobs, let's phase them out. You don't want to collapse the economy overnight by just, cutting everything off, but you could phase them out. And that's what Trump should have done, but he didn't do that. He just went full fucking retard, right? Because number one, when you phase them out, you can keep the progress report going so that your base knows what you're doing. And you do it so under the radar that you can do like Obama did. Look, Obama got rid of like 3 million people or something like that he deported, right? But he did it under the radar so that his base wouldn't fucking ostracize him for it, right? Some did, the immigrant groups did, but like the radical left wasn't engaged on that. Where Trump, they're looking for any reason to use lawfare, partisanship, whatever. It's like it's beyond violence. Like sane people have to look at it and say, okay, I get people don't agree with each other on certain things, fine, but what the fuck are we doing here? Like this idea that people protest all day, every day, just because they're so disgruntled, like that's not normal. That is not normal. Like people are agitated, and it's the state doing it. It's the media. These people never get held to account. When you have doctors and nurses on the left talking about how they got to find ways to kill right wingers in the fucking hospital, like, okay, I think we need to do a fucking head check here. You know what I mean? Anyway, I digress. So the Canadian economy is still like, again, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. One thing I talked about, especially looking at, I said, watch around the Great Lakes. That's where Trump is going to make his attack first. So if we see American tanks, on the Gordie Howe Bridge, then we know we're in trouble. We know the Americans are going to invade us. The invasion is still on. The invasion, my prediction for the U.S. invasion is still on. It won't work. It will be absolutely fucking disastrous for the Americans. It'll be disastrous for us, but it's really going to be disastrous for the Americans. Because I'm watching what the Canadian military is doing. Yes, right, like everybody can criticize the Canadian military today, but give it a year. If they are serious about working on an invasion plan, what I'm watching for is anti-tank weapons coming into the country. We have a fair amount of them. Probably not enough to stop every U.S. armored vehicle. There's about 90,000 vehicles to stop, but we could stop probably every Abrams tank. We probably have enough to do that, and probably most of the Bradleys. The Bradleys are the backbone of the U.S. Mechanized infantry, right? Something like 9,000 of them, or something like that. Maybe 15,000, whatever the numbers are. Okay. So MadPad launchers and stuff like that, like right now the Arctic are we're going to be getting a new, but it's not going to be till like 2032 that we're going to be getting all these new snow coaches we have like 78 of them or whatever, and about 20 of them still functioning. The rest are cannibalized for parts. That's been the problem under the Trudeau administration, is how everything got cannibalized for parts, right? So almost none of our equipment functions right now. But Carney's putting money in there. He is putting money into the military. I'm listening to people, I'm talking to people in the military, say, yeah, well, he's doing good with the rank and file soldier in some ways, but like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand there's lots of problems, it's not going to be fixed overnight, but he's stepping in the right direction incrementally. The one problem, though, is like the recruiters are not paid as much as the regular rank and file soldier, right? So they're going to have to do something about that. And, of course, there's like veterans affairs and stuff like that, still not funded properly, even though there was a mandate in 2016 that still haven't been implemented yet. You know what I mean? To help out our veterans, right? We can always send the veterans to war, but then when they come home all fucked up, it's like, oh, well, they're asking too much, like Trudeau would say, right? It's always the same thing. They do the same thing in the States too. Like it's a disgrace, absolute disgrace. But that said, we are moving in the right direction, right? But if we start seeing air defenses coming into Canada, which we hopefully will, we are getting some, but we've given them all to the fucking Ukraine, right? Yeah, we're. I think this summer you're going to see a lot of Canadian Arctic movements. It's already happening as we speak, right? The Canadian military is like, like really ramping up in the Arctic. It's just these things take a lot of time. Like it takes 10 years to have a full, like full, like to build bases and shit like that, and to train guys up and all that. And Canada is probably the best equipped for Arctic fighting, next to maybe the Finns or the Swedes, and maybe Norway, right? Uh, yeah, the Danes, yeah, they like they're sending their special ops guys to Greenland right now, and they're already starting to take up positions in the just in case. And I started looking. Oh yeah, I want to make a correction. The Bering Strait is more on the Alaska side, okay, between Alaska and Russia. It's the Darius Strait between Greenland and Canada. I'm always getting this two mixed up. So anytime you've ever heard me talk about the Bering Strait, I meant the Darius Strait. Um, Whatever. The one thing though is Canada has a huge advantage over the United States because Iqaluit is just like basically a hop, skip, and a jump from Iceland, Greenland, right? So we're going to probably see a lot of military buildup in Iqaluit, and then probably, see Alert get, which is the very northern tip. If Canada controls those two, then the United States can't get in there with the Navy at all. And the other problem is that the U.S. warships, again, the United States can't take Greenland the way people think it is. These carrier groups are meant to be in southern seas. They're not designed for the Arctic Ocean. The Arleigh class destroyers and the Tongarogas, they're not designed to operate in the Arctic. Aircraft carriers, U.S. aircraft carriers, are not designed to properly. I mean, they can go there, but they need such preparation that they're not ready to go for at least 5 years, 10 years. Even that, just the cooling pumps would be all frozen up. You know what I mean? Like the Danes do have like one Corvette up there that they patrol the waters with, and it can go through a meter of ice. I don't think there's a U.S. warship that can go through a meter of ice. Right, that's 3 feet. Doesn't sound like much, but when it's crushing in the current, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot, right? So, yeah, the Virginia class submarines, yes, they can patrol the Arctic. They are designed to do that. The Americans don't. They have a lot of troops in Alaska, about 12,000 troops, but they have like something like 5 Abrams tanks, and they have like half the Arctic equipment we have, right? They have like one really good icebreaker, and then maybe 5 others or 4 others. They would never be able to get keep a carrier group functioning up there. So that's not how they can do it. And they can only do it between say like June and August would be, if you got carrier groups up there past that, they're going to get crushed in the ice. So like I talked about the dog sled thing before. Like with the Greenlanders, like Trump making fun of the dog sleds, and it's like, yeah, but those work. Like where the tanks and the snowmobiles and the snow coaches and all these other things break down. Look, the Greenlanders, they shot Nazis on the ice from dog sleds, right? So that's like it's not this easy. Like everybody always thinks, well, we got such a big military, we're so powerful, blah blah blah. Look how the Maduro raid went on. That was an inside job, guys. Like like that's the only reason why nobody died. And I think like something like I forget how many U.S. soldiers. There was a bunch of them injured anyway. And that's nobody killed, but a bunch of them injured. Right now, that said, when they go back again the second time, like the Venezuelans right now, they're sending. They've got groups out there hunting down the treasonous that sold out the anti-aircraft and air defense system locations to the Americans, right? So that's the only reason why they were able to take all that stuff out. They had inside help. That's clear as day. Will we ever know for sure? No, classified, but two and two, you know. So with that said, yeah, the Danes, they basically got French troops up there. Canada's opened up a new consulate up there, as well as France. So, basically telling, it's basically diplomacy showing that, yeah, I know we're in solidarity with Greenland. But there's also the Danes have got their special forces guys. They're watching different airports. They're already bringing up the proper weaponry. And you have to understand the other thing too is most of the soldiers stationed in Greenland are radar operators, not frontline soldiers. So they're bringing in special forces guys already, right? Now, mind you, they're more in the southern part of the Greenland, right? So the northern part where the Americans are also stationed, yeah. What I'm thinking is what they're doing is they're going to encircle the Americans now, so that if something kicks off, they can hit them right away, and the Americans won't be able to replenish, right? Because like air combat's not going to work the way people think it does, especially this time of year. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to just drop. Like the F-35s, they don't function in the Arctic that well. That's what the Danes have told us. Now there's news out there that we've just either signed on for 14 more F-35s or parts for F-35s. It seems to be like the reporting on that one's a little bit confusing. That it's like, okay, well, if you want the parts for these F-35s, you need to get, order the parts now or you're going to run out, by the future. So I don't know if we've signed on to 14 more aircraft or, just the parts for the 16 that we're committed to. So it's kind of, I've heard different reports. Some are saying it's this, some are saying it's that. So we'll see. I think it's the parts. It makes more sense because we're committed to that. And I think if we're going to get I doubt we'll ever see a single F-35. We're supposed to be getting them in 2027, but they've been saying that since 2000. When did the F-35? Like 1999, the F-35 was coming out. You know what I mean? Whatever it was. We've paid a lot into this fucking program. We've never got a cent out of it. And it's not, Carney can't cancel it a third time. It'd be too controversial. I think what Carney's doing is just trying to wait it out. That's what it looks like. Now, the SOP Gripen, the rumors of the Rolls-Royce engines going there is still a rumor. There's a lot of propaganda saying that, yeah, Rolls-Royce is going to supply the engine for the Canadian-built ones because one thing that might be standing in the way of the SOP Gripen is not whether it's a fighter for us or not. It clearly is. It's the American. It's a General Electric engine in the SOP Gripen, and the Americans have control of who the Swedes can sell their aircraft to because of the U.S. parts, right? So the Swedes have to come up with a new engine. They have to come up with a new engine. So it's either going to be a Rotax engine, a Rolls-Royce engine. Who knows, right? Maybe something domestic that Bombardier has could fit in there. I don't know. We'll see. But that would take time because you'd have to test the SOP Gripens with new engines and all that stuff and reprogram. There's it's not just as quickly as just swap this out for like 1950s jets. Yeah, you just swap out engines because the engines are just throttle and go. These things are like every aspect of the engine has some sort of computer chip. The just yeah, it's you look at a modern aviation schematics of a modern aviation jet engine fuel supply delivery. If you want to confuse yourself, there you go. Very, very, very complicated. So, but we'll see. The mixed fleet seems to be the rumor, which I think makes the most sense because the soft Gripens, they'll work in World War III in the sense that their turnaround time, they're going to spend about 3 times longer in the air than the F-35s for the maintenance. They're way cheaper, almost half the price per hour flown. They literally do the same job minus the stealth. And they don't have to be extra rigged up to work in minus 50 in the Arctic or minus 70 or whatever crazy below temperatures. However, the F-35s, you got to finish them after every flight. The coating, because the coating's delicate, stuff like that. You have to, like there's some that they have rigged up for the Arctic, but it's like you have to do, it might compromise your stealth just to do it, right? So it's like, this was one of the problems we had early on and why the F-35 got canceled in the first place. It's like, well, to make it Arctic compatible, it would compromise the stealth because you'd have to put pods on the wings and stuff like that. So yeah, there's that. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. For me, I say ditch the F-35 and quadruple up on the 80 soft Gripens is not enough. We have 2,200 U.S. fighters that are currently in service that we may have to go up against. I think we need at least a minimum of 500, just at least to give us a chance, right? But the soft Gripens also, like the way I'm looking at it is, okay, let's get everything, make things easy. Let's either buy all the armor from Germany and everything's integrated there, and then we just have to link it over to the soft Gripen or the Eurofighter. Or we buy everything from Sweden, and then there's no programming nightmare of trying to get this to work with that. Like our new warship, okay, let's ditch the Raytheon stuff and put the Saab stuff in there, and then our warships, which the Swedes, they're now in NATO. They've got soft Gripens, in Iceland. They're flying around the Ukraine. They're all over the place, right? And Canada is going to be probably helping with the 150 that are going to be built for the Ukraine. We'll see. That's like, again, there's a lot of promise for jobs here. And again, we can't rely on the Americans anymore, unfortunately. And I understand there's some people that say, well, we need to improve the relationship. It's all Carney's fault that the U.S. relationship is so bad. It's not. Carney has told you guys in plain language that, look, we can't make a deal with the States. There's no deal to be made, basically. Look, the Canadian position is this. When you want to do a trade deal where we have all the frameworks ready to go, we're ready to sit down and talk. And all we get in return is, Canada's screwing us over and trade talks are off because you put out a commercial. It's like, who's the unreasonable one here, right? And it's simple. Trump does not want to make trade deals with us. He wants to destroy us. He fucking hates Canada with that. He's attacking Gordie Howe Bridge. You know what I mean? But no, that's a 5D chess move. No, the guy is fucking unhinged. He's dangerous. It's scary. And I said, watch. When the Americans attack, they're going to make moves around the Great Lakes. He's going to try to take territory around the Great Lakes. Because according to Trump, who campaigned on strong borders, suddenly the Canadian border is just an arbitrary line. Is it really theirs anyway? They say it's theirs, but you know what I mean? Like, this is the language we're up against. You have to take that serious. The military planners up in Canada are taking note of it. So there's what we get released to the public, but my hunch is there's a lot of shit moving around behind scenes that we're not going to know about. But my hunch is if you start seeing a lot of Canadian movement in military equipment, particularly labs going from point A to point B, Griffin helicopters dropping shit off here, there, and everywhere. Soldiers just kind of out on a hike in the middle of your town. This does happen. Don't get me wrong, but training. But what you see it more than usual. It's like, okay, yeah, no, they're scouting for the positions, the defensive positions that they're going to take up against the Americans. It's going to happen. Like Trump is very, very clear that he's going to attack us at some point. And then we got this conservative guy in Canada. Oh, I went. Trump says he loves Canada. Yeah, he just fucking attacked Gordie Howe Bridge. You know what I mean? Like, the same bridge he was saying was the best deal ever. Now it's Canadians are fucking us over, even though we paid for the bridge. Like it's lunacy. It's absolute fucking lunacy, right? Um, but yeah, like the other thing too is that, and this is a big one, is I guess the military movement stuff. I think I covered everything there. But if I miss something, I'll catch it in the next one. I'm sure. Don't worry. I'm sure in a couple of days something crazy is going to happen. Don't worry. You'll be entertained. um, but the other thing is that for example, China. Now, I'm still watching, like this big fucking purge that Xi did over there in China. That was a fucking counter coup, right? And I said, watch out for coups, military coups. There's going to be a military coup probably by year's end, or maybe by summer's end in the States anyway, if Trump lives that long. I'm not making any threats. I'm just saying, I'm still saying that it's most likely going to be a MAGA supporter, veteran, that is going to shoot Trump, just from the betrayal. I'm listening to like U.S. veterans, and they're not happy. Like these guys are right wingers, guys. These are not your lefty progressives or whatever. These guys are so ashamed right now. They're of their country. Like it's sad to see. Look, I bash on the law enforcement military of just following orders all the time, creating their own dystopia. I agree with the Canadian Prepper on that. It's like, yeah, when you guys do the gun confiscation, you're going to be taking it from your friends and your family, and then they're going to take it from you, right? Yes, that is the historical norms. There's no such thing as brave law enforcement military. I'm keeping my job and just following orders. That's what there is. That's why you have the U.S. pirate Navy out there. So yes, I'm going to bash these guys until they do the right thing. But that said, when they're coming out there and saying, look, nobody voted for this. Yes, there are things that people, the right voted for in with Trump. They wanted, the illegals gone. Okay, no one's going to say that they didn't vote for that. They just don't want it. Again, you got to be realistic. Okay, what did you think it was going to look like? You got 30 to 40 million people, maybe 50 million people to deport. What do you think? It's going to be messy, right? The whole ICE raids thing is this Trump's grandiose idea of basically if we make it look like ICE is everywhere, it'll get people to self-deport, which it does do, right? But it also creates a lot of controversy, right? So is it a good he's done it the wrong way. He should have done it the Obama way. Like Obama was fucking just sailing along tickety boo, right? Yeah. And again, I'm no fucking love for Obama whatsoever. But anyway, I digress. So the thing is that these veterans, what they're saying, they're like, look, how dare he insult the Canadian soldiers and all these other soldiers from why would no politician, even on the left, usually is not stupid enough to attack veterans and attack your active duty military and call them names and say they're not brave in battle and stuff like that. You just don't do that. They stayed way back, and you got all these British SAS guys. Look, the UK lost out of all the coalition forces. Okay, we can bash the Afghanistan, Iraq wars as more bullshit wars that didn't need to happen for Israel's cause, right? We could track it all to that, right? They didn't know then. They didn't the internet wasn't as savvy then. But they figured the Iraqi veterans, I have respect for them because they figured it out. They said, look, no, these wars are just for bankers. These wars are just for Israel. These wars are just for the military industrial complex. All of which is and the bankers, and it goes, right? He goes, it's all about that. They were correct, right? They figured it out. And the thing is but they served thinking they were doing the right thing. The same thing happened in Vietnam and stuff like that. So in Vietnam, what they changed was they got rid of the draft after that because it wasn't popular, because so many people were against it. And what they did is they did a volunteer army, and that's why right now they don't have like these big military drafts, which they wouldn't be able to pull off in the West anyway. I'm not saying they would try it, but they're just not going to do it, right? It's just not going to fly. Like the U.S. military is getting a hard time getting recruits now, just because all the people know these wars are bullshit, right? So when you have all these veterans telling you that, and then to have Trump, some rich kid that never had to serve, right, sitting there calling all these other guys that they served beside and watched die, lost friends, and people that like their families are never going to ever see the body, over in some wasteland somewhere. To have their president come out and just insult like that, it's not sitting well with them. It's not like the betrayal is hurting. Like betrayal is one of the most dangerous things ever. Right? Like it leads to a lot of chaos, right? And that's what you're getting. So yes, I'm still going to say that it's going to be most likely a right wing, possibly left wing veteran that shoots Trump. They're not going to miss on the next one. When does this happen? I don't know. It's what straw breaks the camel's back at that point. So like if you're a CIA agent or whatever, you're like, oh, this guy's threatening. No, I'm not threatening. I'm saying like if you can't figure out that this is going to happen, look, you're about to have your own military coup. The whole thing coming up here in Canada, and you saw it on the news. And now I understand sensationalism and stuff like that. Yes, they're going to milk it. I get that. Could we, the Americans really going to invade us and blah, blah. Yes, I understand there's a lot of people that don't believe it, but they're toting it. But I'm thinking there's something else going on that what I'm watching is U.S. brass as well, like what they're saying, right? What they're saying in public. And you have military commanders out there and generals and stuff like that are very, very open without taking jabs at Trump. Well, if you could read between the lines of what they're saying, is that we are not on board with the commander in chief. And I'm thinking, because look, how many weeks now has this whole Iran fiasco been going on? Why haven't they attacked yet, right? And I started thinking about that the other day. It's like, it's weird. Okay, everything's in place now. What are they waiting for? And then it started to dawn on me on a few things. First off, it's another illegal war. You've got a lot of Congress people now trying to stand in the way of Trump, saying, "Look, we need to make sure that he can't just do war by decree, right? Like executive order wars, like the Maduro thing. Like Trump is going to jail if he lives through this order the next year or so. He is going to go to jail because of these illegal wars. Like the Maduro raid was illegal, the act of war he's doing against Cuba, destroying their economy overnight, basically. They're out of power, they're out of fuel, they're out of food. Again, the crimes against humanity. The man deserves the death penalty for sure. And his entire administration. Marco Rubio can be, he's got a lot to do with this too, and your Lindsey Grahams and all that. Anyway, I digress. But the thing is that I'm thinking what has happened is that U.S. generals have probably warned Canadian generals, this is my speculation now, saying, look, we're preparing to invade you, right? But it's not popular yet, right? And because of that, you've got time, right? Because they're going to kick off in Iran first, and then after that, who knows? Like so far, I don't think the Americans can take Greenland. They don't have the equipment to do it. They've got the manpower, but not the equipment, right? They don't have the training to do it, and definitely the biggest weapon Greenland has is called the Arctic Circle. It's just like like it's -30 just kills everybody. You know what I mean? Look what's happening in the poor bastards in Ukraine on that last cold spell. I don't know how many guys froze to death on there's guys completely they're basically like Han Solo in the trenches. They're just fucking frozen solid, just there. They just died, froze to death. Unbelievable. Yes, the Russians are still winning in the Ukraine. That is pretty clear. But they are taking a lot of losses too. Sure, the Russians are winning 5 or 6 to 1, but when you think of the death toll of the Ukrainians, 5 or 6 to 1 at best guess in favor of the Russians is still a massive amount of people. You probably have 1 million men dead on either side or thereabouts. Like it's just wow. And again, that's what the U.S. Ukraine war, U.S. Canada war is going to look like, but only 10 times worse because of the way it would be fought from our side. First off, would be defensive. And there's other factors that a lot of people are just not taking into consideration, like the 2.2 million gun owners, the 450,000 veterans. How many of them are still capable of fighting? I don't know. But even if they only have half of that, right there, you now need a 4 million man army to invade, or else you're going to lose everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah, like I still stick with my prediction of just war gaming it. It's like Canada. Well, number one, you're going to invade in the spring to midsummer, and then you're going to be like completely dead, stopped by December. You know what I mean? January, nobody's fucking moving. You know what I mean? Just it's same as Ukraine, right? But the difference is we might have a year of building up. Like if they're smart, move the anti-tank weapons now. Like just spread them out all over the country, and garrisons everywhere. In every city, everything like that. Set up the ambushes now. Like just get ready, and then okay, mobilize in 24 hours. You get like 150,000 guys. Just mobilize conscripts, whatever you got, veterans, whatever you got, and just let the tanks come in, whack them. Oh, but the drones, yeah, we got those too. Especially the drones. Like the drone warfare is going to be the eye opener. It's like, okay, well, the Canadian Air Force doesn't really matter. These F-35s don't matter. They don't. The Saabs don't matter. Like we can win a war against the United States without an Air Force. Because you're not going to rely on the Air Force, you're going to rely on the drones. And these drones, they're cheap. You know what I mean? And training takes a long time. But you got drones, anti-tank gunners, and air defense. You could hold off that. Now, add in fighter jets. You can... I think what would happen is the Canadian Air Force would fight way back. Like they would... fight the way the Ukrainians are. So in other words, we're going to see like makeshift runways all over the country, and mirror what the Ukrainians are doing. Like they'll land a Mirage in the middle of the Ukraine somewhere. So Russia is like, okay, well they had an air base there the other day, now it's gone. Like every day they land, like they take off from here, but they land over there, and you don't know where the over there is. And what they do is they have these like mobile trucks with tools, and they just follow. Say, okay, we'll meet you at the second rendezvous point for maintenance. Now, is it working foolproof? No, but the idea and the concept is fucking absolutely, it's unbeatable. It's unbeatable at that. So at that point, have a year to prepare that, 2 years to prepare that. Yeah, good luck. Suddenly your Air Force is much more powerful and much more mobile than you think, right? But we'll see. We'll see. No, I still would say about 200 to 250 million Americans would be killed in this war. Because you got to think of the sabotage and just the power outages and all that stuff. We'd lose all about 4 to 8 million people out of the 40. Fighting defensively. Like again, the Canadian Rock Shield, there'd be so many tanks destroyed there. We're like one of the number one builders of MadPad launchers, I believe. So your drones are going to get shot down, and there won't be the force multiplier that you think. And then it's just a matter of how do we blind the satellites, which you don't really have to blind the satellite. You just have to take down the comm towers that reach the satellites, right? And artillery is good for that. Drones are good for that. So there's a lot of things like when you start thinking about how strategic we would preemptively Like as soon as the attack would take place, we'd hit all the communications. We'd hit the same thing would happen to us, but we'd probably have hopefully put communications aside so that you hit mainly decoys and shit like that. We'd fight dirty guys, is what I'm saying. So I know a lot of people don't believe me, but yes, no, the United States cannot take Canada in 3 days. It's an impossibility. Even if you had everything, it would take you. Like when you see like the Maduro radar, right? Okay, that was probably planned for 6 months minimum. When you see Israel like strike all over the Middle East and they unscathed or whatever, they take 18 to 20 weeks to plan a mission, right? Sure, they're going to be successful. You do that. Now, do that mission and have it, like a counter retaliation, then have to deal with the counter retaliation. The Israelis can last 12 days at best. In 12 days, the Israelis basically burnt up half the world's supply of Iron Dome missiles, against like low tech rockets. There was I think an F-35 shot down an Iranian drone last week or whatever at the beginning of the week, whatever. They fired like an $80,000 missile at a $1,000 drone. Who's going to win? Gee, I wonder. And I'm thinking I wanted to get, and there's something I was starting to think about. Like the United States is good on a lot of things. They are. They got the biggest military, sure, highest budget, yeah, granted, whatever. Probably the most amount of people. Next to China, right? China has more people, but equipment-wise, we'll still say the United States is holding on to the top-ish. China is like right behind. Russia's right behind. And some areas the Chinese are ahead, and some areas the Russians are ahead, right? Especially when it comes to hypersonic missiles and stuff like that. Now, the kicker here, okay, and this is something that you like. Okay, I'm like, okay, well, the carrier groups are clearly at Iran. Trump's bravado is, I'm going to hit Iran, I'm going to hit Iran. Okay, so they tried the regime change through protests, which never works. They try to use that as pretext. Okay, well, if you hurt those protesters, that's it. Meanwhile, our ICE guys are shooting people here, but, whatever. How dare you crack down on those people, right? So the double standard is there, whatever. Okay, but the carrier groups are ready. They're ready to fight, whatever. The Iranians have shot down a U.S. drone. That gets downplayed, and then, of course, the Americans have sent an F-35, and it shot down an Iranian drone. And of course, oh my God, look at that. We're Iran's scared now. I'm like, they're like, no, they've got, like, you have to understand, Iran is the number one supplier to Russia's Shahed drones, right? Those things are wreaking havoc all over the Ukraine, right? Now, do you think the Iranians are going to sell these drones to Russia without making money off? No, of course not. They're going to make money off it. But what are they doing with that money? Well, here's my hunch. They probably got about 500,000 to 2 million, maybe even 4 million of these little micro drones that are just, just enough to harass the shit out of the ships in the strait. So what they do is they send out like 100 of these at a time. The U.S. warships are going to have to shoot them down. It's like you have no choice. These things have explosives on them. You either shoot them down or they're going to damage your ship. They probably won't sink your ship, but they're going to damage your ship. And if they damage your radar, you're blind. And the last place you want to be sitting is in the Gulf of Aden or the Arabian Sea or the Strait of Hormuz going, hey, are they gonna you know what I mean? Like you really don't want to be there. You know what I mean? Like you really don't want to be there. Because that's going to be really, really bad should they fire the cruise missiles right after, right? Because you won't be able to shoot them down. Now, let's say the United States can shoot down every drone Iran sends at it. Okay, Tonga class, I think, is the most powerful of the Arleigh Burke class warships. They're the double ender, the one with a gun at each end, right? They carry about like 150 PAC-6 missiles or whatever on them. Okay, so these things can shoot about 150. So that plus, if they still have any of the phalanx systems, I know some of these ships have basically gotten rid of their like Sea Whizzes and phalanx systems and whatever, the Gatling guns. But let's say they still have those as well, and all the electronic warfare and all the countermeasures that you can think of, missiles. Okay, so you send 100 missiles. generally fire 3 missiles per target, right? They might fire 1 if it's just a drone, fire 1. Okay, but at some point that ship is going to be out of ammo, you know, and you won't have to. Maybe you just like stream like 100 drones in a row, and okay, they're out of ammo now. Okay, well the ship has got to get out of there. Well, even at 45 knots, whatever the max they can push out of a ship like that, maybe 30 knots, whatever. I can guarantee you the next batch, second wave of drones, you know, is going to basically pummel the shit out of the ships, radars, stuff like that, the gun systems, whatever. You'll be out of ammo, right? Now, if you're lucky enough and you get out of range of that, you can go over to the ports. Here, I'll show you the problem. I have to grab my glasses here because once you see the problem, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? And I'm sure the Iranians, if a simple person like me can figure this out. Okay, we've got Iran right here, Arabian Sea. Okay, your aircraft carriers right now are sitting somewhere around here. Okay, you got Oman. Okay, United Arab Emirates. You've got Saudi Arabia. Okay, so Saudi Arabia, they're out. They're like, we're not doing this because if we do, we're gonna have a problem with the Yemenis. We're gonna have a problem with Iran, and we fear Iran. Okay. So Arab Emirates, they're out. Okay, we're not going in there either because if we do, Iran's right fucking here, right? They'll take out the docks. And why? What's there? Well, yeah, but the fighting's going to take here. Well, Iran's going to close the Strait of Hormuz here, or Yemen. Yemen will do it for them. The U.S. carrier group if they go in there, they die. It's as simple as that. They go in there, they die. So Eritrea, obviously, you can't go there. Somalia, you can't go there. It's going to be funny. Okay, guys, just stay to the Somalian side. You see all these little fucking Somalian pirates go after the U.S. aircraft carriers. It's going to be funny. I don't think it'll work for them, but they do try it. Like Somali pirates will try to attack a warship. They're that dumb, you know. But 65 IQ. Sorry, I'm taking a jab there, but you know what I'm saying. So you got guys holding off on here or whatever. So the U.S. has to be within striking range here. So Iran is going to be able to hit that. And when you go to reload, you can't reload here because if you try to reload here, you're going to get taken out by Iran. You're too close. The U.S. warships are dead in here. The Persian Gulf is just not an option. The Gulf of Oman is not an option, right? You're right in Iran's backyard. There's no carrier group that can survive that. The Yemenis, they got all here, right? The carrier group can try to do strikes from here, whatever, fine, but you got to fly all this territory all the way back here, and you're still within striking range of Iran, but they can still strike you. So you can see what I mean. Like, the only places you can reload the warships, because one of the problems that the United States has is they don't have a lot of supply ships. They can't reload the Ollieburgs at sea very easily, or if at all, right? Because of the VLS systems are kind of hard to reload. That's one thing like us, we can reload our missiles at sea on our older, Halifax class frigates. They don't carry as much, but they can reload at sea predominantly, right? Because everything's just in containers and you just lock it into place. Where the VLS systems, you have to load the missiles straight down into the silos, right? So they do this dockside. Now, the second you make it to the docks, that's when hypersonic rockets are going to land on your ships at the docks, right? So they'll be sunk in port or they'll be sunk at the seas. Then you've got all these little patrol ships, like maybe somebody has got through to Trump saying, look, here's the difference. The 12-day war, Iran didn't want to escalate. They said they just did tit for tat, we'll fire 200 rockets a day kind of thing on Israel, and then Israel could barely fend that off. And they gave Israel like something like 2 weeks notice that they were going to be hammered again, right? And it was like the first time the Iranians hit the Israelis back, shocked every fucking Jew on the planet. They're like, it's like we've got a Middle Eastern country that can actually hit back. They did like that barrage and say, look, okay, we've got to save face with our people. Eye for an eye. We're hitting you on Friday. I'm not going to tell you what time. So they had between France, the UK, the United States, some other Jordan, a few other local regions to intercept all these drones and shit coming into into Israel. Even at that, 200 drones still got through, right? And it fucked up a lot of shit. And that was just the shitty stuff. Iron Dome was almost completely depleted on 200 drones. 12 days of that, about 200 missiles a day coming in, and drones and shit like that. Yeah, the Israelis are like, okay, we're satisfied with our strike. So the Iranians are like, okay, yeah, well, we're good. So they did it just to save face. They weren't even serious. They were only hitting military bases predominantly. They did hit some IDF intelligence agencies and whatever. Yeah, sure, the IDF will put an intelligence agency in the basement of a hospital. We know they do that. The Iranians, they'll hit it anyway. It's like, why? Because fuck them, right? They're the Israelis, right? The Israelis always accuse the Palestinians of using human shields when they do the same thing. Again, why are we even there, right? We're there because Israel said so. That's the power of Zionism. So anyway, I think there's enough U.S. generals probably telling Trump, like, this is a really bad idea, because this time around, look, the last time the Iranians fired at us, okay, they gave us like 11 hours notice or something like that, and they fired the slowest rockets they could so that we could intercept them in Jordan or wherever it was, or Arab Emirates, wherever they fired them in retaliation, right? And that was so that it was basically a symbolic retaliation. And that's all the Iranians have done so far. But now what the Iranians are saying is enough is enough. Like this time around, the gloves are off. And the gloves off means you're going to lose about 70,000 people in the area if you fuck with us this time. Because there's no reason, like the Iranians, you might not like the Iranian regime. I'm not a fan of the Iranian regime either. But they have not attacked anybody openly in like 170 years or something like that. It's like they it's like, oh, but the IRGC and the other one, the Quds Force, and they're terrorists and they support terrorism. Yeah, but the United States and Israel and about 40 other Western countries backed ISIS to overthrow Assad. So who's the terrorist, right? You know what I mean? This is openly admitted stuff. It's not conspiracy. Who do you think those moderate rebels that were being trained up in batches of 4,000 to 6,000 in Jordan? You know what I mean? And half of them saying, yeah, we're part of ISIS. I mean, they overthrew Assad to put an ISIS leader in fucking charge of Syria. Gee, how's that going? As well as you thought it would go. I said, but like everybody was, oh, well, Assad was a monster. Yeah, but the ISIS guys, guess what? He's doing twice the genocide. But it's fine when he does it. Why? Because it's Israel's guy, right? But even he attacks the Jews in Syria and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, well, you got the guy you wanted, yeah, it's so fucking evil what these people do, right? And whatever. But the Iranians they're saying, look, don't do it this time around. We're like, it's gloves off this time around. You guys, the Americans cannot save Israel at this point. It's Israel's only saving grace that it can do at this point is just not to piss off the rest of the Arabs. Because I think this time around, it's just like, okay, well, let's send 2,000 rockets a day. Goodbye fucking Israel. Like, it will not survive that. And I believe that the Iranians can do it. Not only can they send probably easy 200 rockets a day for probably a year straight, minimum, but they could probably send out 1,000 drones a day for a year straight, minimum. You know what I mean? So you start thinking about that. Now add in Houthi anti-shipping missiles. Any Western ship is going to be sunk, without a doubt, will be sunk in those areas that I just showed you on the map. So once you start to understand it like that, it's just like, okay, is Trump really in the name of Israel, is he going to fucking kill that many Americans? That would create such havoc back in the States. The GOP would be hunted to the ends of the earth by special ops guys Again, you'd probably almost get an instant military revolt. You know what I mean? Like it would start a civil war, but maybe that's what they're going to do, right? They need to take down the United States one way, or the best is from within. The United States is its number one enemy. It's like I say, Nigel Farage took out the Tory party over there in the UK, and it's worked marvelously for the globalists to destroy everything. With Starmer and whatever, right? Take out all the right wing, you have no defense of your country. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, but you have to understand there's different levels of right wing, the same way there's different levels of left wing. Most of the left is progressive left and nuts, right? But they can't really function without like George Soros money and stuff like that, or the fact that the rule of law doesn't apply to them predominantly. They can do all this criminality, and they're like all these Antifa guys never seem to go to jail. But the right wing is made up of a bunch of groups. Some of them are very nationalist, some of them are Christians. The Zionist evangelical Christian there's no such thing as a Zionist evangelical Christian or Judeo-Christian. They are Zionists. They are not Christians. They think they're Christians, but they're going off the Scofield Bible, which is revised by Zionist Jews, right? Hence the chosen people thing, right? And I'm not a scholar, but I know enough to know that no, these people are not Christians. But the problem is there's 70 million of them backing Israel. So if Israel says go to war, they just say how high, But the good news is a lot of people are turning away from Judeo-Christian and just going either Christian or Catholic or something like that, or other, whatever, other than just following along with the madness that we're seeing, right? But I think what's happening is there's probably a whole bunch of generals telling Trump, we can't do this. We do this, like they're serious this time. The U.S. bases cannot defend against the rocket attacks. Again, I don't want to see it come to that, because that's a lot of, good Americans that are going to die for nothing because of this, shit face's ego, right? And to keep Israel happy. And Israel's going to get killed as well. If they do this and the Iranians are not going to do symbolic hits this time, because look, the Iranians, they don't want war. And I'm not defending the Iranian regime. I'm saying they've had every opportunity and justification to hit back full force, and they've always chose not to. And it's like, yeah, because so we wiped off the map with nukes and stuff like that. That's not a deterrent for them. It's not. Now, one thing I'm thinking is that, and the reason why I say that is because they don't view it the way we view it in the West, right? They view it from an Islamic thing. You have Turkey out there saying, don't attack Iran. Turkey, there'll be consequences if you do. So the thing is the one thing you have to keep in mind, okay? Now, China and Russia have been, flying shit into Iran like big time, right? In anticipation of this, convoy, or flotilla, basically this, a battle group coming in, at $6 to $9 million a day to run the, just to get it from South China Sea to, to get the carrier group to, the Arabian Sea. Yeah, that's no small feat, right? That's very impressive that the Americans can do that, right? But that's $9 million a day before a shot's fired, right? But single payer healthcare. Oh, that's socialism. Again, this is the mindsets you're dealing with. Okay, something that doesn't need to happen, you're wasting $9 million a day on before the shots are even fired. But yet, anything that would actually help Americans, no, can't do that, because that'd be socialism. I don't want to pay for that. Guys, I'm not taking jabs at you, but okay, sure, you can take jabs at Canada all day too. I get it, but it's like, come on, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? What are we doing? Why? How long are we gonna play this fucking game? For these corrupt people. When is the brave law enforcement military going to turn brave and actually arrest these people? The law enforcement military could have most of the world chaos, including all the Epstein pedophiles. And I'm going to refer to them as all pedophiles because that's what they are. Like, you know, like the longer they wait to arrest these people on stuff like that, you know, the more, like, as we speak, there's these fucking cretins are fucking torturing children as we're speaking, right? And yet, we only have 3 million pieces of documents and about 2,000 videos. But even though we, you know, convicted Epstein on, you know, like fucking pedophile stuff to begin with, but there's no there, and we don't want to offend anybody. You know, Trump, I don't want to. It would hurt my friends. Well, if those are your friends, fuck you. And again, Ryan Dawson made a really good point on, and I'll get back to the Iran thing in a second there, but about, you know, like all the people in the Epstein files. They're all like judges, lawyers, politicians, media personnel, you know, governors, you know, all these people, bankers, all these people. They're not plumbers, they're not nurses, they're not, you know, school teachers, they're not construction workers. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's very telling, isn't it? You know, these people in the, you know, upper echelons of society. I'm not saying everybody that's you know, in those upper echelons of society is evil, but what I'm saying is there's a there. You know what I mean? Anyway, getting back to Iran. Yeah, so I'm thinking the U.S. generals are saying, okay, no, we've warm gamed this, we're going to lose everything. Now, mind you, this would be the best thing for the military-industrial complex to lose not one, but two carrier groups, because they'd have to make all that money rebuilding, right? They don't care about the U.S. soldiers. Henry Kissinger summed it up, you know, like we don't care about the cannon fodder. You know what I mean? You know, like they just want to make money, right? And other things. Plus, if you're killing like Goy, it doesn't matter, right? One thing about this round of Epstein file leaks is the Goy now know. It's like, oh, holy fuck. You know, like, who is it? Yeah, Ike Hypocrite put up like this like meme, and it shows like Joseph Stalin like bawling his eyes out looking at the radical communist left, and like Hitler up in like the clouds laughing. And I'm like, you know, it's droll, but there's a truth to it. You know what I mean? Like there's something to it. You know what I mean? But this is what we're up against. So you gotta understand, like, we're in dangerous times. Look, the Chinese, okay, you know, while the U.S. pirate Navy was going around stealing Venezuelan freighters and the oil and stuff like that, the Chinese hit back. What did they do? Oh, you want to steal our oil? That's fine. Well, number one, we'll buy the oil from other places, such as Canada and other places. And while we're at it, we're going to dump $800 million of fucking U.S. treasuries. How do you like me now? Oh, you didn't like that? Oh, yeah. You know what we did this week? Yeah. Another $640 billion of U.S. treasuries. Now, how do you like me? Yeah. Look at that gold price. Wow. Fuck. I wonder why it's going up so much. You've got Switzerland. Trump just fucking hit Switzerland with another 35% tariffs. They're like, it's fucking Switzerland, man. You know, the only thing that's more stupid than attacking Switzerland is attacking Greenland. You know what I mean? You know, like, it's just like people that are not even fucking with you, you're attacking them, you know, just because you think you can bully them. But it's just that what's pissing Trump off, like most bullies, is that he expects everybody to just fucking bow down because we're so mighty, nobody will stand up to us, and everybody's standing up to him. It's the total, like, it's a, you know, it's like, it's got to be humiliating for the guy because it's like, I keep threatening, and then again, Moon over Parador. If you ever saw the movie Moon over Parador, is this not the exact same fucking, you know, Raul Julian's part? You know, is it not that? Am I not right on? Have you not seen that? Like, is it not like Trump makes a threat? It's always an empty threat, and then he's got egg on his face when he doesn't follow through. So at some point, he's going to have to follow through, right? And if he doesn't follow through, he tacos. The United States loses even more, and they lose and they lose and they lose and they lose. Like, Trump is your biggest fucking, like Trump goes on about how Canada's screwing the Americans over so badly, and I'm like, no, Trump is screwed. Like, it's self-inflicted wounds here at this point. Like, who can't see it? It doesn't matter if you're on the left or on the right. If you just want to survive, like, you know what I mean? He wants to destroy the currency. That's why last week, to save face, he's like, oh yeah, well, you know, in the interview, he's like, oh yeah, no, the U.S. currency going down is a good thing. You know, we'll be more competitive. right? People will open up their business here. The capital is leaving the United States. It's not coming into the United States. I'm sure there's going to be some, but most people are looking for a way out of the United States. The mid powers are grouping together, like Carney said. This has got, like, that was the ultimate play that Carney did so far on Trump, is getting the mid powers to say, yeah, well, maybe if we say fuck the superpowers. Sure, it's a big economy. Everybody wants a chunk of it, but not at that cost. Like, it's not stable. The United States is not a stable country right now, which makes it very dangerous, right? And being their neighbor, people are, better be preparing wisely, right? But the thing is that the generals are probably telling Trump that, like, no, the Iranians are going to hit every base that we have. And not only can they hit the bases, but they can hit them, like, for weeks on end without us even being able to stop. The Iranians, they have a fucking brilliant defense tactic. Number one, they've got just natural landscape. It's Iwo Jima 2.0, right? They've got mountains, just like Afghanistan and stuff like that. They've got really scorching heat, desert. Like to survive there. Just never mind the fuel to keep the boots on the ground. The water, you know what I mean? Like the Iranian people, like, yeah, they're suffering food shortage, water shortage, and all that because of the U.S. sanctions, right? But just to survive against the desert people is hard enough. Just the water, you know what I mean? It's almost but the thing is the Iran is going to be the most technologically advanced country the United States has ever fought until they fight us, right? But the Iranian regime, they knew that the money wasn't going to be in the big, expensive aircraft carriers and stuff like that. Yes, everybody's seen that Iranian aircraft drone carrier that's out there. It's a ship converted to a carrier. Yeah, I think the Iranians have put that there on purpose so that the Americans hit it so they can get justification to sink an aircraft carrier of the Americans. Well, you hit ours, we got to hit yours. You know what I mean? Again, the Iranians have the upper hand here. That's why they're using rockets. It's like, why fly fighter jets for 6 hours across the fucking desert when you can fly a rocket in 20 minutes? And you don't even have, and you don't even have you're home in time for supper. Till the next shift. I have already explained this. These little fat little Iranian guy sitting there eating his hummus sandwich, drives a truck out of the cave, hits the red button, takes a chunk of the sandwich. Oh, look at that! Wow, durka, and then goes back in, reloads again, goes home for supper. The next guy takes over. It's fighting war on the lazy. So you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we'll just let the rockets do the work. F-35s, yeah, 200 rockets is probably the cost of like an F-35 running for an hour. You know what I mean? Like it's maybe it's a little more than that, but you get the idea. So the U.S. air defense is not good. The THAAD system is meant for ICBMs. The Patriots are meant for ICBMs and high stuff like that. They're not great at low-level cruise missiles and stuff like that. Thus, is like when we look at when Trump had Soleimani killed, the Iranians, they fired 22 rockets. I think all but 2 hit their targets on 2 different bases. It was 11 rockets per base. And the Patriot missiles could not intercept because the rockets were on too low of a trajectory, right? So you got other things like the the newer missiles, what they call we got them too. Anyway, whatever they call it, I forget. Anyway, you can fire up to a battery of 72 of these things, and they're better for the low level stuff. But the problem is you got to reload those things. What happens when you fired the last missile on your base? Well, good luck, because you're not going to be flying aircraft carriers in there or airplanes in there reloading, because the second they detect, okay, well, we don't have to shoot down the C-5 Galaxy. We just have to wait till it lands and put a rocket on top of it, or a drone. You know what I mean? You're just never going to reload this stuff. So all those, the last time when the Iranians hit the base, 100 and some odd people suffered permanent damage. Nobody was killed other than the poor Iraqi guys that were working on the base. But if you're an Iraqi guy and you're watching this video, okay, and you're on an American base working, you see the fucking Americans running, you run too. oh, what's going on here? No, there's something bad about that. Get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? So the Iranians apologized to the Iraqis and said, sorry, we killed your citizens, but we had to, strike the Americans back. Maybe it's best that they don't work on the U.S. bases. But yeah, like people were inside as these rockets came in, and it was like the concussion just on the buildings in the shelters down where they were. Like people had part of their eardrums burst, their sinuses burst, sometimes, and they find this with artillery. When artillery lands, sometimes they'll find guys dead. They look completely normal on the outside, but the concussion actually liquefies their insides. It's instant death, just from the concussion. And that was 11 rockets, and of course all the Zionist people, they're showing the aftermath, oh, look at this, it randomly landed here, yeah, right in the middle of the runway. Oh, and over here, every building, dead on. There was 2 rockets went astray. Numbers are in the that is, and that's the shitty stuff they have, right? So you imagine their good stuff, Again, you look at the 12-day war. And just look at those rockets coming in. One comes in and just takes out, it wasn't even the hypersonic one. It takes out half of a city, a building about 12 stories high. It just takes off half the building. Just from probably the impact alone, let alone the warhead. One disadvantages the Iranians have is their warheads are not that powerful. Now let's talk about that. I've been telling you guys for years that, and this is openly known, that the Iranians, the Syrians, and the North Koreans, they are constantly sending scientists back and forth, working on weaponry such as nuclear programs, stuff like that. So the Iranians have the know-how. There's no doubt about that. But I've always said this. Why would the Iranians bother to enrich uranium when they could just buy the warheads? Hence, what has China and Russia been flying into Iran? Right? Clearly, China does not, they've stated, leave Iran alone. Russians, the same thing. Leave Iran. Even Turkey. Turkey, a NATO country, again, but Turkey is always the monkey wrench, right? It plays all sides. As they say with Turkey, Turkey is liked by no one but dances with everybody, right? So, yeah. But every, ally in the area is saying, don't overthrow Iran. Do not take out the regime. Don't try to, pull a Libya here, because it's not going to work. Number one, you're going to get us all killed, because the Iranians are going to lash out to any, they're going to level, the Iranians have said, look, if you're hosting U.S., warships, we're hitting them. If you're putting the aircraft there, we're hitting them. Do you really think the Saudi Air Force can take on, the Saudi Air Force can't even take out the Houthis. And the Houthis are pretty fucking advanced for what they are. And these guys, they don't give up. They don't give up. Now, the Saudis have been, and the U.S. have been bombing the shit out of, Yemen for decades now. You know what I mean? They've starved nearly 9 million people to death. You know what I mean? The Houthis, they're not looking at it as, oh my God, well, if we do that, they're going to hit us back. They're like, we've got nothing to lose, you motherfuckers. We're going to kill every one of you. And even the Houthis, look at how they fire their missiles. They fire a few at a time, making sure that they can get shot down. Why? Because they don't want to escalate. They just want to be a nuisance. That's it. Well, what happens when they don't care? Well, okay, we're going to send out 1,200 cruise missiles all in one shot, one battery. No carrier group is going to survive that. You are not going to survive that. So what I'm wondering is if the Iranians have probably on the back channels have let the Trump administration know, well, you know what? Don't worry about the nuclear program, because we now have not only warheads for our rockets, we have chemical, we have nuclear, we have whatever we want. We're not going to come out publicly with it, but here you go. That's what I'm thinking has happened. The other thing is that they've probably sent footage of, here, see this nice big cave in their mountain? Yeah, look at this rocket. Yeah, this is North Korean technology, but it can reach the middle of Washington. It can reach the middle of Los Angeles, the middle of New York. So you could pull that trigger if you would like, but we'll pull this trigger. And I'm thinking the Iranians have probably, because they do have rockets that can hit Big Ben over there in the UK, right? Like Buckingham Palace. Yeah, that big clock on the top, they can hit that. They have the range to do it. So they claim. Now the thing is do we want to call that bluff or not? You know what I mean? Like Pakistan could have been giving them. I know Pakistan and Iran don't really get along, but Muslim countries will, they'll go back to killing each other after, after fighting the infidel, right? And I'm thinking the Iranians have way bigger of a card to play that we're not aware of, because there's a lot we don't know about the Iranian military. They do keep, like, we don't know what kind. We know they have air defense systems that can hit 250 to 400 kilometers out, like S-300s, S-200s, whatever, and their own domestic stuff. But the thing is, we don't know how much they have. Can they actually shoot down an F-35? Yes, they can detect the F-35s, they can detect the B-2s. They did. They chose not to shoot the B-2s down. They've already shown that they shot down, the Q-4 Global Hawk, which is the most advanced drone the United States has, and in the world probably. And they shot it down with ease at either 25,000 feet or 75,000 feet. It's whatever, whatever you believe, right? But they shot it down. That much is confirmed. And when Donald Trump said, well, because Donald Trump did I forget what he struck some Iranian targets anyway, and the Iranians got even by shooting that down. And Trump said, well, we're not going to escalate. We could kill, we can, go to, kill, do 150 more strikes on you and whatever. And the Iranians, well, we're satisfied with this. We could have shot down that P-8 Poseidon right behind it if we wanted. Meaning they could have killed 16 to 20 Americans. Look, the American equipment is good. Don't get me wrong; it's probably the best out there, but it's never as good as advertised. The Iranian equipment is, it works. It's, it works good enough. Is it the best? No, but I mean, these are like, really, if you think about it, it's like V-1 rockets from World War II. They're close enough is good enough. Just make a bigger bang. You know what I mean? It's the damage that they could do. Like they hit, they can hit Camp David. They can hit, all the Israeli air bases. They can hit everything, right? And they will, if they do it without warning, the amount of U.S. soldiers you're going to lose, and even with warning, like there's no way to stop it. Like if they start doing bombardments and saying you're not going to be able to get those soldiers out of there, and then they put the rebel groups around there as well, yeah, there's not going to be enough ammo for the Americans to hold off that kind of invasion. They're just not going to happen. And I think the Iranians are ready for that. And I'm thinking the Russians and the Chinese have given them extra weaponry or air defense or whatever. But the wild card is probably they have warheads, is what I'm thinking. I always thought they would just buy them. You know what I mean? Like, why even if they're older warheads, they could have bought them from Cuba. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing I started thinking about Cuba. If Trump makes a go at Cuba too much, maybe Raul will say, well, I'm an old man anyway. I'll let Cuba go out with glory. And, fuck the people, fuck the Americans, whatever. Okay, remember those Cold War Khrushchev rockets that we got there? The stuff that over the October crisis? Yeah, let's finish that conflict. And next thing you know, Miami gets, well, I don't know if they would take out Miami because there's a lot of Cubans there, but they might take out, say Norfolk or something like that if they can reach it. Or what's the, Pensacola. They just hit the fucking naval base of Pensacola from Cuba with some actual atom bomb shit. They could probably, we don't know what the Cubans have hidden in the jungle. You know what I mean? They could have these, medium-ranged regional RBMs, like the regional ballistic missiles that might be able. Maybe they can reach New York with a nuke. Maybe chemical warfare. Maybe even if it's a conventional rocket, maybe it's just a thermobaric, or maybe it's just whatever. But it's just the idea that they might be able to do it, right? So fuck around, find out. We'll see. But right now, it seems like everything's at a standstill. So what is the Trump administration waiting for? Obviously, the people don't want a war with Iran. Nobody asked for it. Nobody voted for that. They voted for the exact opposite. So we'll see. Okay, last thing to cover. The Epstein stuff, okay? Yeah, the Epstein stuff, I think I said what everybody's... what am I going to tell you that you don't already know? So we know that almost every person... Look, Carney's got pictures with Epstein. Lutnick trying to, yeah, he was my neighbor, but I never had anything to do with him. Yeah, you fucking were probably over there every night. These people are fucking pure evil. That's what they are. The amount of people that I'm watching, like, remember when the Pizzagate thing came out and everybody, oh, you guys are just, okay, first off, the FBI let it out, right? So it came from a valid source, right? The FBI has said this Planet Ping Pong and, the whole Pizzagate thing is linked to a pedophile, right? They showed the symbols. They said there's all these symbols and whatever. And the jaw possessed and stuff like that. And all these people on the left, oh, you're just conspiracy theorists. There's no there. Half the people on the right, oh, there's no there. Now it's like, okay, yeah, Epstein, yeah, he was arrested as a link off of that. And he was arrested for pedophilia, right? He was arrested for child trafficking. He was arrested for a lot, he got charged on that and convicted on that. But, oh, it's a nothing burger. And then Trump, yeah, campaigning on getting to the bottom of it, only to turn around and say, no, it was just fake news. When there's like, okay, how the fuck do you have 3 million fucking documents on something and nobody goes to jail other than one guy and his wife? Like, how? Where is the brave Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi? Where the fuck are you, right? Well, I'll tell you where they are. They've been told what they're treasonists. They've betrayed the people. Not only that, as long as these pedophiles are allowed to fucking and the CBC, they've dismissed it. Every American channel, mainstream, they've dismissed the thing, but they use it when they can weaponize it against Trump. But under the Obama stuff, oh no, it was just fake news. Okay, these people, they all are a part of it. They've covered up for it. They've done all. Where's the rule of law? Where is the brave law enforcement and military? You have the fucking documents. You know what I mean? That's what people are like furious. It's not going away. It's not going away. And the thing is if we ever made good on that, not only would we probably destroy the entire pedophile ring, like I say, the longer this goes on, as we speak, there are children probably being tortured right now and murdered because and raped and all this horrible stuff as we speak. You know what I mean? Why? Because, it's all redacted, look, at this point, people want blood, and they better provide it. Not just one scapegoat, one guy. Look, Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, when you listen to the guy talk, holy fuck. Like, does the face not, does the voice not match the face or what, eh? Right? Like, I mean, it's like, is that what he sounds like? Holy shit. Yeah, yeah. What a horrible, disturbing. But the thing is like, the longer this takes to go, the worse it's going to be for them. And if there's no rule of law, again, you're going to see, like you're seeing, the vigilante justice. Why do you think that you see the left out there? They're vigilantes. That's what they're, at some point, the shoe's going to go on the other foot. I'm not making any threats, but it is. And you are going to get law enforcement, particularly active duty law enforcement, start to assassinate these people. Because they know who the bad guys are. And okay, here's the corrupt judge. Let's make him have an accident. That's the stuff that you're going to see. And you'd say, yeah, well, can't wait. No, because then you have no rule of law whatsoever. Whereas if this idea of, I can't go against my paycheck because whatever. No, you're going to have to you're going to have to start to arrest people that are higher on the rung than you. This includes celebrities, banksters, politicians, like these people at some point, and they need the death penalty. We have to restore rule of law. And it's only the active law enforcement that can really get this done, because they know who all the pedophile covering judges are. You know what I mean? Like, they know who these people are. When you have that much evidence, they know who they now know who most of the bad CIA agents and FBI agents are. I think at some point it's time to clean house, right? Because the alternative is less rule of law, which means civil war and vigilante justice and all these other horrible things, which I don't want to see, But we have to get these, because who would put their paycheck above saving the children? Like, Donald Trump had a golden moment here where he could have went after these pedophiles, had them all locked up, public trials, do the show trials, have them executed, give them a fair day in court, do all that, restore rule of law, save the children. Could you imagine the monumental statues that would be built in your honor? You know, you would be a legend for history, throughout history. Instead, no, I'm going to protect the pedophiles. And then you got the left out there calling it out, saying, oh, this is horrible, this is horrible. And it's like, well, where were you? Why weren't you on our side? You know, like, again, now you're only mad about this because Trump's involved. You should have been mad when Obama was involved. You should have been mad when Biden was involved. You know what I mean? You should have been mad when the Clintons were involved. You should have been, you know what I mean? Where were you? So anyway, that's my take on that. We'll see how much more chaos that gets. Again, you know, I know people are hurting for cash or whatever, I'll just end up on this. If you, whatever it is on the shelf right now, consider it to be on sale because everything's about to become unobtainium. Guys, look, the food shortages thing, okay, we could say Cuba's getting it because of the, you know, all the, you know, the U.S. attacks on Cuba right now. Completely unjustified, if you ask me. Sure, I got a lot of issues with Cuba too, but you don't do that to innocent people just to make them suffer for the sake of making them suffer. And no benefit to the United States whatsoever. You know, just to keep Marco Rubio happy, like fuck him. You know what I mean? Oh, but there's Cuban people that want regime change. Yes, that's their problem, not yours. There's no Cuban that voted to have the United States cut off its fuel. You know what I mean? So for every one like Venezuelan you see that's happy about the Maduro rate, you have the same amount that are unhappy about it, which tells you it's their issue, not yours. You know? Yeah, you know, if they want freedom, they got to fight for it. But they're not going to get freedom through the United States anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's never about the people. You know, it's always about this geopolitical bullshit. So Trump is pure fucking evil, wiping out Cuba's economy, creating starvation there, and you know, cutting the fuel. You say, yeah, but Fidel Castro and Raul Castro have been doing that for decades. True, but that's their problem. You know what I mean? You know, like the United States shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? Anyway, if you can't figure it out, you can't figure it out. I can, you know, whatever. But yeah, the airliners, yeah, they're trying to get out of there before they run completely or stranded there. Because, but look, the other thing that's going to come out of this, okay, and this is going to be Trump's fault, is another Cuban migrant crisis. Now, you say, oh no, they're just going to flee to South America. No, they're not. They're going to go to the United States. Give it a week, 2 weeks, you're going to see fucking Cuban boats, bodies floating up onto the shore, you know, in the Gulf of Mexico and all that. And, you know, that's going to be bad optics for Trump. You know, it's like, oh, well, it's Cuba's fault. No, you destroyed their economy. They're starving to death. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then, oh, great. Now you got more fucking refugees to take care of. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, I guess I'll leave it at that. Again, keep preparing, keep prepping. I know this news is like always like demoralizing stuff. So don't just sit there and dwell on it. Okay, you're now informed on This Week in World Crazy. Go do something to get your head out of it. You know what I mean? My nephew and I, we did some snowshoeing yesterday in a bit of a snowstorm. And sort of worked out, sort of didn't. We didn't quite have the snowshoes quite well adjusted enough for him. So we're going to try it again. He wasn't quite a fan of it as he thought. He was so excited to go out and try it. And we get out there and they weren't quite working. And by the time we only came like down the hill here and went around once. I said, we're just trying it for this time, and we'll make adjustments accordingly. And he was like, I don't know if I like this. It's like, like he just thought it was going to be a lot more fun than what it was. But we did have a little bit of fun, so I'm going to try to get it set up again. We're going to try to go do stuff like that. Read a book, do stuff like that. Work on your songs, paint a painting, go hang out with people, do stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that for now until the next craziest thing. I'm sure, don't worry, there'll be no shortage of madness in this world by probably Friday. We're only Wednesday. I'm sure something crazy will happen between now and then, and I'll make another video. So anyway, there we go. Have yourselves a great day.